Despite winning 16 points from his last 6 games, Mauricio Pochettino has been sacked from Chelsea Football Club, and it looks like the Blues have found their replacement already in Italian head coach Enzo Maresca. So we're here to break down whether or not Moresca can steer this Chelsea ship in the right direction. Beginning with Moresca's background as a player and a coach. Moresca played for 11 different clubs in his 19-year career, from 1998 all the way up to 2017. But it would be his stint at Malaga where his coaching origins would spark. He would play under the great Manuel Pellegrini, with the team consisting of obviously Moresca, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Isco, Santi Cazorla, Willy Caballero, Nacho Monreal, Martin de Michelis, Joaquin, and many, many more. It would be this year that Pellegrini told Moresca to take up coaching, and the Italian referred to him as a father-like figure in football. The relationship between the two would take his abilities to West Ham after finishing his playing career with, you guessed it, Manuel Pellegrini once again. With this experience taking him on to manage Manchester City's elite development squad for the 2021 season.
He would become the first Manchester City under-23s manager to win the PL2 as he began to learn and coach the City Group game model of positional play.
This projected him onto his next job, the head coach of Parma in 2021. However, after just 14 games and 4 wins, he would be sacked. Afterwards, he claimed that he had much bigger problems happening at the club, including the new American ownership, needing to learn 4 different languages to communicate his messages to the players, a messy internal environment, and having to get to know 14 new players that he didn't necessarily sign. Which in truth does sound scarily similar to the situation at Stamford Bridge. In the summer of 2022, he returned to the Etihad Stadium to become one of Pep Guardiola's many assistant managers, and following on from their treble win, he would end up at Leicester City. He would go on to win the title with 97 points, scoring the second most goals and conceding the least number of goals in the entire division. So as everyone wants to know, what is Enzo Maresca's idea of football, and how does it play out? Despite working under managers like Pellegrini, Marcelo Lippi, and even Carlo Ancelotti, Enzo says that Guardiola is his main inspiration when it comes to his footballing style, stemming all the way back from when he was a player facing off against his legendary Barcelona team in La Liga. Therefore, a lot of his methods and principles are very much inspired through this Pep schooling. He uses strict positional play to create numerical advantages and +1 scenarios across the pitch. He's a master of control, both defensively and offensively, and structurally operates with a 4-3-3, which translates to that of a 3-2-2-3 or a 3-2-4-1, as we see so many top coaches using these days. Moving on to the practicality of his systems, starting from back to front. When building out from the back, the goalkeeper Mads Hermansen often steps into a central defender-like position, acting as an actual outfielder, taking responsibility for providing that extra ball player, and he's confident enough to play through the lines in this 4-2 shape, with the right-sided central defender moving into more of a right-back position, and the traditional right-back tucking inside the pitch. And from here they can look to bait and play through the press, often using many bodies in defence and midfield to entice the opposition, leaving it possible to play through the vacated space with either very direct passes or third-man combinations. As they build through the thirds, this is where we can see the strict positional rotations to make that attacking structure. Ricardo Pereira often drifts into midfield to partner Harry Winks in a very, very narrow double pivot, and the opposite-sided fullback, in this case Callum Doyle, slots in as a conventional left centre-half on the ball, with Wilfred Ndidi, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall playing as the split 8s, looking for those pockets of space in between each defender in the back line. And as for the wingers, they're ultimately stretching the pitch as much as possible to create the space between each defender for them attacking 8s. These are the positions where we get to see very aggressive runs in behind from Leicester's number 8s, as they look to push the back line deeper and get in behind. The midfield pivot on the ball are very close together, as we've mentioned, and this is mainly to draw in the press so they can look to beat it through Moresca's on-ball concepts of the third man. And this is something that's huge when it comes down to Moresca's game model. On the ball, you will often see these third-man combinations, which is simply a routine pattern of play used to bypass markers in the press, by bouncing one ball from one receiver to the next one in a very quick moment, looking to find the spare man. And when they find the third or spare man in these patterns of play, they can look to generate and open up large spaces to play through. And this is one of the Italian's most important patterns of play, and one of the most important things to remember about his game philosophy, and that is down to attacking space. However, Moresca insists that you cannot be static within the structure. You have to find overloads and advantages through your own movement, and this is where the fluidity starts to come into place. The number 9 is often responsible for dropping into the pivot to get that numerical advantage, but to also pull the centre-halves out of the back line to once again generate space between each defender for the attacking midfielders and the wingers to run into. And as we'll come on to later, Chelsea have the dynamics in their squad not only to use the false 9, but to also use attacking 8s and wingers to get in behind. Out of possession, the Foxes press incredibly high in a 4-4-2.
They use a very man-oriented approach in their press, and because of this they've generated the most goal-ending high turnovers with 12, whilst allowing the second least passes per defensive action in the Championship this season, showing just how high they get up the pitch and how much they're willing to get in the opposition's face.
And it's very often we can see a team like Leicester setting pressing traps, forcing the opposition to feel like they can play out from the back with the ball, and then in one quick moment they can collapse onto the ball using 4, 5, 6 bodies in the opposition's half to win the ball high and convert that turnover into a massive chance. All of this isn't to say that his philosophy doesn't have holes. It does. As we've covered, a lot of Moresca's game plan is down to generating and open up space to attack through. However, deep blocks can often frustrate them. In the last 6 games only of the Championship season, they lost 1-0 away at Millwall with 72% of the ball, 1-0 away at Plymouth with 70% of the ball, and 2-0 to Blackburn at home with 75% of the ball. When certain teams sit off, it's about having patience and keeping that control and waiting for the right moment to pounce. And this is what Chelsea fans will have to get used to until it properly clicks. Like most of the managers that use strict positional play and are from the Pep Guardiola school, they are very stubborn when it comes to their principles, and they will not budge. This isn't to say that Moresca's teams can't create in the final third, it's just a tedious approach when teams sit off. In fact, this season, the Foxes have created the most big chances in a single Championship campaign since Opta began recording this specific stat. All of this begs the question, how would Moresca's Chelsea actually look? I have some good news and I've got some bad news for the Chelsea fans. Your squad profile both in defence and midfield is very promising for your style. You have players like Marc Cucurella, Reece James and Malo Gusto, and even Levi Colwill if you wanted to play him as a fullback, who can provide the dynamic of the wide central defenders and narrow fullbacks on the ball. You have the right technical ability when it comes to your central defenders in Benoit Badiashile and Wesley Fofana. You have good deep line midfielders who are used to receiving the ball in tighter spaces and playing in the third man concept, like Moises Caicedo, Romeo Lavia and Enzo Fernandez. And in the attacking lines, you have some of the right profiles too. Cole Palmer works his best football in that right half space, and I can see him becoming an ever-present as a central player moving forward for Chelsea, similar to how Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall and Wilfred Ndidi play for him. Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku can both play that deep line centre-forward role well, with their tricky movement, good back-to-goal play, and their ability to facilitate runners. However, your squad is still desperate for certain roles.
With the loss of Thiago Silva, you need another imposing leader who can play in the middle of the 3 central defenders, with Moresca even saying himself that this is one of the most important players in his side, because of how much of the match they can view, and just how much of their possession is built through what that middle centre-half can see.
You need a modern goalkeeper who's comfortable in their ability on the ball to become that centre-half when his team is in possession. You probably need a new left-back despite Cucurella's reinvention towards the back end of the season as an inverted full-back. You need a direct winger who can take advantage of the space left in behind during those situations that we've just analysed, and you likely still need a centre forward who can guarantee you a lot of goals. So it's not perfect, but Enzo Maresca at Chelsea so far from what we've analysed and how Chelsea's squad currently looks is a decent appointment. The 5-year contract is a bit of a worrying sign, considering how the owners have operated, but there's no doubt that Enzo Maresca has got the quality to become a Champions League level coach. So, do you think Enzo Maresca will be a success at Stamford Bridge, or do you think it's another erratic decision from Chelsea's owners?